I know I did this before. I got to do it again. I get so used to just getting into the work. But don't forget, I leave product links to the tools I use during doing all this process. So if you want to use them, you can go ahead, check them out, purchase them. Today, we're going to use the pry bar, the step-up drill bit, the angle grinder, the shop vac, reciprocator saw. There's the bumper. You'll see how that's going to go. The jigsaw, the Dremel. Yes. So parts, product links will be below. Let's get into this video. All right, door's already up. Just had my breakfast, did a live, let everybody know what's going on. Today, we are doing something special. Remember, little things matter. The car's going through a major upgrade, a major transition, a major look overhaul. Some things are going on, even in the chassis, the engine, the interior. So it kind of is a snowball rolling down damn hill, really. It's like once you go so far, it's like you might as well do this, then you might as well do that, then you might as well shit. We're taking the whole car back apart. So pretty much that's kind of what's going on. I'm just one of those people that believes if you get that far, you might as well do some of this other shit you've been wanting to do, or maybe some of the things that need to be done. But today we're going to be doing installation of what some people call the third rear bumper brake light, but that's not really true because the third brake light in the Integra is actually in the back hatch area. This is really considered the bumper fog light over in Japan, but we're going to be utilizing it as an additional brake light and accent of the car, okay, and it changes. So we got one of the tail lamps here. We're going to need that for some alignment situations. I got my table out, and remember, anything that I do use in the videos, I'll put product links below so that you could probably buy them if you want to try to use them, make the job a lot easier. We also have some denatured alcohol. We have our Sharpie. We'll need that to mark some things up. Matter of fact, while I'm at it, let's go ahead and get a straight edge. We'll need this. Put that right there. And we'll need the car. All right, so got the car out here. Remember, we already did the installation of this 94, 97 rear bumper. We took the 98, 2001 bumper off for reasons that you all also have already seen, for not only fitment, but overall aesthetics that we're changing up, okay? So a lot more things are gonna go on. We went ahead and got this plate on here. We're gonna need to lift this up and get this out of the way. So we are going to be putting this in. Now listen, I've seen some videos of this being installed. Matter of fact, let's look at what's being installed. This is what's being installed right here. This, okay? Now I've seen videos of this being installed, and quite frankly, I've seen it being installed incorrectly, okay? Couple of key things that you probably want to pay attention to. One is the alignment and placement of this light. Now you need to know, once we cut this bumper, which this bumper's already been cut for the diffuser, and it's right. If we cut it wrong for this light and mess up this hole, which means you oversize it, you're done. All right, I'm done. You might decide that you could do something else. I would not do that. I would literally find me another 94, 97 bumper and I would start over. That is pretty much what I would do. So we want to pay attention to this line here. All right, we're going to use this line as the top portion of where the light will stop. All right, because we want to stay in line and we want to stay in fluidity with body lines. We don't want to have the light sitting in between this line and that line and then splitting another line. That would, that really to me wouldn't aesthetically look good. So I'm going to use this line right here and bring it out, and that's where the top of my light will come. And then I'm going to use the portion where you see this portion where the brake light comes through, well, the harness of that comes through. I'm going to transfer that down, and that pretty much is going to be where the light is going to be centered. I'm going to use these points to center my light. So that's enough talking. Let's get to work so you can see how I'm going to do that. I don't know how long this video is going to be because we will have to do additional work on the inside of the bumper because I do not want to get rid of the crash brace bar. So we will also be doing some work there, but let's finish these first initial steps. Okay, so we got the light in, and I pretty much got my rough estimate of where I want my line. Now it is important to use a ruler that is straight, but will let you bend to contoured lines. Like this bumper, you know, this bumper is not exactly straight, it comes at an angle. So to have a straight edge where you can press against that so that you can transfer enough of this line over is important. If you use something that's too stiff, you're not going to get that, and you could quite possibly have your line off. All right, so right here we pretty much see that we're good. Nothing is perfect. We will also take some general measurements from this break to down here to make sure that we are in line, that our straight edge did not fool us based off some of these other things. We are, now this right here is a reflector. This is not actually a light, so I'm not going off this one. I'm going off the edge of this one. Now, also remember, nothing is perfect. We just want it as close as we can get it. Some things are so damn close within a tick's pube hair that it looks perfect, and that's pretty much is perfect in today's world. But we just need it close. Now, I'm gonna show you something that I also do to help me see and visualize where I want things. So we're gonna go downstairs and check out my media center so I can show you some things that I use for me to visually get an idea of how I want to set things up. Now you can actually see I have a rear photo of my vehicle loaded up here into Photoshop. I'm gonna blow it up just a little bit more so you can get a fuller view here. Matter of fact, let me expand Photoshop there. All right, so there we go. Now what I've done is I've taken a picture of that fog bumper light and I've cropped it and loaded it into my Photoshop and bow. There it is. Now I can get an idea of how that light will look on my bumper, and I can decide before I even buy it or I even install it if it's something I still want to continue with. But also I get an idea for the location where I want it. You know, with it being in here, I can move it anywhere I want it to see how I want to sit it. But I've already decided here, we're using this brake line right here, like we said, off the license plates area coming over. That is a bit higher on that brake, so we actually might bring it up, but you also have to keep in mind, I put it up to that lip, so that lip's gonna give us a little bit more beef or take up a little bit more space there, which might take us into that area. And now I know, like, hey, I do like the way that this rear bumper brake light or rear bumper fog light looks, and I want to go ahead and do that. So this is something that I will do to visually get an idea of things I want to do on my car before I actually even buy them or actually even install them. So consider doing something like that for yourself. Let's get back outside. So here's another cool tool I use for measurements. Now remember, we want to measure as many times as we feel comfortable before we make this cut. Measure as many times as you want. You're gonna end up cutting once. All right, so let's go ahead and take a measurement of this line to here, because we're really coming off this line right here. So we want to see how far down is this brake, and then see how far down each side of this brake is, and make sure that this line turned out as even as possible. So we'll get the calipers there, open, close them a few times, make sure it zeroes out at 0.005. We want to go ahead and zero it out, do it again. All right, now we know we're pretty zero, okay? So now I'm going to take this general estimate first. You know, this is a thousandth of an inch, so as long as I'm within there, I'm close. And what I'm doing is taking this, there's a line here that the light is making off the curvature of this, and I'm going from that line down to that next line. So now I'm locked in basically right there at 1.57, basically 1.5 inches. So what I will do is I'll just go ahead and even that out and take it to like 1.755 or 750. All right, lock it in place, and I'm going to use that same shadow brake that I was using over there, and we're a little low right there, but keep in mind we have that additional rubber that's going to come up some, so that might actually be okay. And we're going to come here and notice that we're a little low, but we're going to have that additional rubber that's going to come in and take that up. So at eyeball, is that gap from there to there about the same? And yes, it is. So we're not going to change that. We're going to pretty much leave that. And based off the look of the eye, I mean, we even look like we're squared up. So that's really, really what matters. a thousandth of an inch off is not gonna make the eye be like, that's off. If you're off like 18th, you start creeping in quarter, it's gonna look off visually, but thousandth of an inch, you can get away with that. So let's go ahead and proceed with getting the stencil that I made up here, and I'll tell you how I did that, and then put that in place, and then get to work on seeing if we're gonna cut. It's made myself a stencil based off of the actual light. If you have a photocopier or fax machine, basically what I did is I took this out, put it face down onto the copier, put white paper around it. You probably want to lighten up the darkness a little bit. That way you can see a little bit more of detail. And then I cut the inside of the light area out, not where the border comes, because that would be too big. Because what we're trying to do is, once we get this out of here, we're trying to basically have the measurements of this inside bezel, and we're going to take this apart in a moment. So we got a little masking tape on the back of there. And this will give us a visual idea of how this is gonna look. And even off the measurements that we transpose down from this light area, these are already syncing up. So that even further shows us that we're on the right path. Now remember, we just transposed these basically roughly with the straight edge. So I take this here and put that in. I wanna come right up to that line, because remember, our garment is gonna give us that extra little buffer to stay up in here. So we're gonna put that right there on that line, and you can see we're pretty much are where we need to be. And then from the middle and come out. And there we go. Now we have another visual of how this light is gonna look, and we're pretty much in there. Yeah, I'm liking that. I think that's pretty good. Got our height right here. Then next thing to do is we'll kind of put the light up there and see how that goes. But I think we're pretty much in there. I like the way that's looking. Let's step back a little bit. So now you get another visual of how this is gonna look. Another checkpoint to even decide if it's something you want to continue doing, or are you ready to back out. Like, these are the moments where you're like, you know what, I'm really not feeling this shit. I think I'm gonna back out. These are the times where you're gonna wanna do that. Not making the cut and then decide you don't like the shit, now you gotta get another bumper. Go through all of these steps to re-ensure that you actually want to do this shit. Do it, take the time. All right, so now we're gonna take this headlamp, this fog light apart so you can see more of what we have going on. Be careful not to scratch up your lens there. These are not terribly expensive, but you don't want to have to spend additional money if you don't have to. Be careful, because you do have some of these have locking nuts and not these type of clips on the back, so be careful in case you do have the nuts and they fall out. And now this section comes out of here. Now this is not the section that we're taking the measurement on. All right, we can put that to the side. This is the actual section that we've taken the measurement on. If it'll come out of there, let's see if we can get it out of there. It's a little stuck. There we go. All right, this is the actual section. Okay, do not take, now when I did my photocopy, I copied this and I used the inside of this to make my cut, so it's smaller than this. I've seen a guy take this whole entire assembly, didn't take these two sections apart, and he assembled it with this on there from the outside of the bumper. Then, well, if I have the clip, I can show you what he did, but it was horrible. Made these slits in the bumper and then pressed it in. That's not the way this is done. This is going to come together like a sandwich. This will be on the outside, this will be on the inside of the bumper, and it will sandwich the bumper in between. As you see, you have a gap there that pretty much compensates for the bumper in there, and that'll be what you'll have. And then you'll slide this into place and then screw it together, and then it's one part of the bumper. So when you do take this apart, you do want this to be snug, because when you take this light out of there, you don't want these coming apart all the time. You want them to stay together. And as you see, it kind of snaps into place, kind of snaps out. You want to keep that tightness. And even more so with the bumper, you want it to be snug so it doesn't come out. And you could just take that light in and out when you have to replace a bulb, if you have to replace one. Now it's time for us to go ahead and take this over to the bumper. See how this will fit up to there. So we have this piece. And see how that covers that. Now you see how much more of this will cover up that area and actually meet that line. Even if we're just slightly off, that's okay. We're not trying, it's not rocket science, but this will slide into this area here, and we're pretty much there. Now, also pay attention to the way that this, you see it's not just straight on. If we put it up here, you see it's kind of slanted. That's the way that you want to go with the bumper. The bumper runs off that way. Don't put this in there like this. That's not how it's gonna go. That's not the correct way for it to go. And also you see that this portion comes out more, which usually means you're shielding from sunlight or other light, and you don't want light really going up. You need it kind of going down. So the hood should be this way, where the short side of the hood is on the bottom and the longer side of the hood is on the top. Now we're getting closer. It's pretty much time for us to make these marks. Now what I've done is we can take this off, but be careful in case you have to reuse it. Don't be too crazy with it. And what I've done is I've made another set of marks right here off the side based off this stencil. You can see we came a little wider right here, which pretty much takes us in line with that. Now, if we wanted to, we can scoot it over and just go off these lines and then kind of push this out a little bit, which I'm considering doing because I think this comes over too far and I like this line. So what I might actually do is, since I know that this is the stencil we're using, I'll still use, oh, I'm sorry, let me fix that. So this line comes over too far for me, almost where it's splitting this, and that's not what I want. I want it to be here or just inside of here. So what I'm gonna do is take our stencil back, keep this line. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and get some denatured alcohol on here and clean those lines up. See, this is, like I say, constantly measure and put these things in the perspective to where you're gonna want them, and take as much measurement as you can before you actually start cutting, so you are where you want to be. So I'll erase those. Now I'll get my Sharpie, take my stencil, which is why we didn't just go crazy with it. Put my stencil back up here using this line for this edge as well, because I don't want to change that. And I want to just barely cover it because I want to stay nice and tight. And then take my stencil, go up to here, and boom. And from the center, out and down, all right? Now I want to take this line right there, and I'm gonna come up from that one, okay? So now I'll take this off again. No need to mark this side because I like where this line falls within that light area. Now this one will push out some, and we'll have it pretty much coming to the edge of where this housing is to that reflector, and that pretty much puts us where we should be in alignment when that light lights up. We want it to be in line with this light, all right? And now I'm pushed over some, and I can go ahead and make this mark, get the straight edge back here, and mark that up. So let's do that. And then we'll erase this line and get rid of that one. So now we can actually go ahead and erase that line because we don't want that line anymore. If I got enough denatured alcohol in here, yep. Erase that line, get our straight edge back here and come out some more, and then come up. Yeah. Right there. And then a straight edge. Let's go ahead and brace that against the ground to the straight. Right there, right? And then boom, there we go. Let's go ahead and remark this one. So we got that, and there we go. There it is. Now we have our alignment for this. If you notice, coming from this side right here to that side, it's pretty much what we want. So we'll go ahead and take that and that, all right? And then this portion, because it bulges out, is pretty much there. So we should be nice and snug by the time we get here, where these ribs will get into the bumper and act as if a placement holder. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this. I think it's time for us to cut. I'm gonna sit back, look at it one more time, and see how that looks, get up close to it, see if I can see something with the naked eye, if it looks really off, and I don't. And I think we're gonna be pretty good, especially when we put the shrouds and the housings on. And I think we're pretty much there. I think we're offset just a tad from here, just a little bit lower, which our shroud will come up, and I think we're gonna be peached. So now it's time to go ahead, take these pieces off, take the center garnish plate off, take the bumper off, get the bumper onto the workstation and start cutting. Okay, so we got the bumper up on the work table. This is preferably how you want to work, like facing down. You don't want to really work this way, although I've seen some people do it. I just think it's a better way to do this. You can get more leverage, you can see better, all of that. And we can also recheck these measurements before we do this. But next step, we're going to take this drill bit and we're going to drill in the corners. Now be sure that you don't drill so far into this corner that you break that corner. We can come back later and perfect that corner with a Dremel tool. So drill down far enough just so you can get your blade from your jigsaw in there. I'm not gonna use like a circular saw or a grinder. I'm gonna use a jigsaw because I have more control over it, especially with my hand here, instead of winding up, coming out here in that circle, breaking that edge, and then you loosen that. Now remember, one of my rules of thumbs, what I always like to practice, all right? I don't like to have sharp edges or corners because I feel that invites tears. This is rubber. Definitely could invite a tear. I'm going to circle that out to basically give that reinforcement so there's no real good point of attack for a tear to take place, all right? So let's get ready to get into this step, get this cut out. First, I'm gonna recheck these off camera, make sure I like the measurements, and then we're gonna get hacking up this bumper again. We already made these cuts for the diffuser. Now we're making this cut, and so long as this cut goes good, the bumper's good. Then we'll get it on there, install the light, see how it looks. All right, one of the breakers flipped and it messed me up on this cut, so hopefully it's not too bad. Now it's time to go ahead and test fit this piece. Remember, we're test fitting this piece and we want it to be in there nice and snug. So we got the first level in there and just press down a little bit. And these ribs, you're gonna hear them click and lock. That's what you want. Now, if it's too tight, and we will try to put the whole assembly in there, then we'll have to take it out and redo it. But for right now, we're getting in there. And now we kind of stop. So we're gonna need to take a little bit off. We're extra tight, so we'll probably take some off here, come off here, and then go from there. Let's go ahead, plug it in. Those ribs going into place are sounds you want to hear because those help this piece stay in place. So we're still hanging up on the last couple ribs. And we got too much mush right in here, I think. I'm not gonna, well, let's try to see if we can get it all the way in there first. Actually, yeah, I think we're gonna have to cut a little bit more off these corners, so let's mark those where you see the binding. Right in that area, this area. I think pretty much this whole area. So we'll knock it down some more, but we're getting there. We got a lot further just with a little sanding. Let's go again with this. Yep, getting a little bit better. See how it's starting to just slide into place a little better. See? Right there. And we got this last little notch right there. Just a little bit. So let's take it back off, take a little bit more off, and go from there. All right, there we go. Pretty good fitment right there. Now I want to make sure that the opening is actually big enough for me to get the other piece in there. So as long as this piece will drop down in there, which it does, so we're good on that. Now we want to try to put the back piece on, okay? So we're good right there. So now it's time to move to put this back piece on, and you want to make sure you got this line going the same way as everything else. So make sure you got your holes down in there. See if it'll fall in. This piece right here. Make sure these wires are out of the way. Pull this piece down in there. And there's a notch right here that tells you where this goes, and there's a notch also in there. You got to line those up. And it'll fall into place like so. And then just make sure your screws go down in there. All right, so now we got the light in there. You want to make sure it's going the right way as well. Make sure that notch is in the right place, and you'll see that notch inside. Now we're gonna turn the bumper over, come from this side, put this piece on here, which is gonna sandwich everything together. And as you see, you can see that white notch has come through. So that means we're through with that end. So now it's time just to take the screws, get this all sandwiched in. Are we reaching on this one? Yes, we're reaching on that one. We're not reaching on this one. So let's see if we can press down a little bit more. Get those grooves in there. And we may have to find a bigger screw for this section here, because we don't want to be too abrasive. We might have to find something a bit longer, or I'm going to go in here and see if we can clear out a little bit more. So what I'm doing, I'm looking from the back side of the bumper to see where I might have pressure. And I can see I have a bit more pressure than I want right here in these corners right here. The sides actually look okay. I can see some light in there. So I'm thinking that's where my problem is coming from, and then it's causing this to bow a little bit more than it should and not to sink down. So what I'm gonna do is mark this on the other side, take these little areas up in all four corners from here to here, and then we should be good to drop in. We don't want to hit these corners right here any more than they are. So we're leaving those. We're going to hit about 1 inch in this space. So this is where having a white pen will help, like I did in the other video, just to mark these areas and where our pressure is and give us an idea of the length of those areas. Now what I'll do is I'll come in with the actual jigsaw, being very smooth and careful, and take some material out of there. So as you see right there, transpose those marks right here so I can see them from the top side. Once that white's gone, I know I've knocked it down some. I'll go back and check, knock that down some, knock that down some, and that down some. And there we go. That's a little bit better. You heard it pop in place right there. So that's about what we want for it to pop in place like this side did.
I see those kids are leaving. Can I get out of your, what's the names?
Yeah, they should be able to.
I don't know what's happening about that butterfly, huh?
Yeah. Go. personally, I probably will end up going to the hardware store and probably getting some longer bolts than these. If you see right there, everything else is pretty good. We're pretty snug. Now it's time to take the bumper, put it back on the car, and make sure it doesn't run into this crash bar. So if it runs into this crash bar, we'll have to make some modifications. Maybe we end up just taking this portion of the raised foam out. Maybe we end up notching this crash bar. I don't know till we get it up there. So let's see how that goes. So nothing goes easy when it's supposed to go right. So really, I'm gonna move this car so we can get in some sunlight. But trying to test fit the bumper on with the light, it is running into this. And unfortunately, when it gets closer, it's gonna run into this crash bar. So what I'm gonna do is take the light back out, take some measurements, figure out a general area, and we're gonna notch this. All right, so took the light out, made my marks here, so I know where this is. Now I'm gonna take the bumper back off. Now take the back portion of this light housing, match it up against that, make new marks, and then I'm gonna go and notch that out so that this will fit in there. So if you wanna get rid of your crash bar, I wouldn't recommend it because you see I'm not doing it, but that's what I would do. All right, so we're gonna put that back portion back on where it goes on the back side of the bumper, make new marks to decide how wide that is, and I'll make those marks, and then I'm gonna go in. Now this is the time we're gonna get the angle grinder out and we're gonna notch this support bumper, so or the support brace. So let's go. Made the marks. This is how wide we're coming to make sure we have clearance. This is about how far back we should have to come. We shouldn't come any further back than that. And then you have to notice that this bar that holds this has a piece that comes out and then connects to this. So we have to also be careful to see if we're gonna end up possibly losing that, but we still have this side, so the support brace should still stay up even if we have to cut some of that. We're gonna come right down here to this line. I'm gonna use that line as a reference point and go all the way across and then come back up, and we'll take our time, notch this out, see what other little pieces we have to cut. So it won't be perfect, and then when we'll go back, we might go back and just go ahead and you know, soften those edges, and then we'll end up cutting this how we need to and then taping it on, because this probably will not stick in that section anymore. So we'll end up taping this on in two separate pieces. Just that one being a booger. And there we go. We gotta go ahead. This is pretty much still holding on by some spot welds here and here. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and notch this out, and that should give us enough space for this lighting area, hopefully. So I'm gonna go ahead, cut here, and then notch all this out. And I'm thinking that, yeah, I think I'm just gonna use the wheel, go in as deep as I can here, then get the reciprocating saw, and it's cut all the way down there. Now I know you're probably saying, like, this is a lot for a damn rear bumper fog light. True, it may be to some, but this is the way I'm choosing to do it because I want to keep my crash bar. I want the support for the bumper. I want to put the foam pieces back on when I'm done. So I'm taking those extra steps to install it this way. You might just say forget it and take that whole bumper off and just go without it. That's your choice. This is my choice. It's an alternate way. If you want to do it this way, this is how you do it. If you want to do it the other way, you might be able to find another video on it, but I'm not doing it that way. So let's continue. Right there, got our gap. Time to go ahead and let's blow some of this shit out of here. And then of course we have bare metal, right? So with bare metal, we need to coat it, but first we'll make sure the light fits. The light fits, we'll go ahead, take it out, coat all that stuff up. We don't want rust, and then shit, we'd be done. Okay, so I'm gonna show you, but I've had to cut quite a bit. So now what I'm doing is banging it just a tad to mark up the plastic on the back of this bezel so I can see where the area is that's hitting. Then I'll take the bumper off and look at it, and I can see right in here it's still hitting. So I'll go in there and take some more of that out, and then we should be good. Made this final cut. What I ended up doing was putting the bumper on, taking that white wax pen. I'm telling you, that shit comes in so much handy. taking it, going from the bottom, just putting white wherever I can to get a generalization of the area. I did. This just ended up having to come back some, so that's cut back. So now I'm gonna try to put the bumper on. Hopefully it goes on without any binding. Let's see how that goes. So once again, you're making all the modifications because of this area right here protrudes backwards. So let's go ahead. And wow, there we go. It slid right into place. No binding. This is hitting that. This is not hitting. Yes. So that is all good. Now we can go ahead. I'll make my little notches for that to sit flush, but we're done. Look at that. There it is. It is in there. We'll take the tape off later, but it's installed on the bumper, and I like the way that looks. Especially once the lights get in there, it'd be awesome paired up with everything else, and once everything else gets clean. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you install the rear bumper fog light, JDM fog light, without removing your entire crash bar. Okay, so I literally finished up 15 minutes before I have to go live with my IG fam, and we're gonna do a walk around of the car. They're gonna do a Q&A. I'm gonna do a Q&A, let them ask questions, so we're gonna go over that. So as for YouTube, you know what I say about this time, just build it. Peace. And hey, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget www.wolfpackperformance.net. Get your Teggy shirts, get your parts, all that stuff. All right, subscribe to the YouTube, subscribe and follow on the Instagram, and I got a TikTok now. I didn't want to do it, but I got bullied into it. TikTok is up. Peace.